Well, hello, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Stephen. So, this week's blog is entitled The Mycenaeans. Of course, I'm going to try to alliterate something back to historic ancient Greece. This is one of Cosmo, or the Lieutenant Colonel, and my O Club conversations. However, in this particular O Club conversation, we're not in our O Club. We are in a new facility while our existing O Club is under a state of repair. And Cosmo is quite upset, not so much about the fact that we're in another location, but more specifically because of the architecture of this new building. It's modern. Modern meaning that it's kind of orange and beige with a lot of prefabricated windows and faux ashwood paneling. And of course, since it's a modern facility, there can be no smoking or drinking inside of this place. And as you can imagine, the Colonel is quite upset. And he references this back to an interesting historical alliteration. He talks about the Mycenaeans. Now, the Mycenaeans are a fascinating group of people in the sense that about 1,000 years before Christ, they had a flourishing, technologically advanced civilization on the Greek peninsula. But then something happened. It sort of fell apart. And in falling apart, they effectively gave up literacy, and they also gave up the capability of making these incredible buildings that they had had prior to their decline. Now, oftentimes, and I'm just as guilty of this, oftentimes when we think of the decline of a civilization, we think that there's sort of like an obliteration, right? You had, it's kind of Atlantis, right? Sinking into the sea, leaving everyone on the mainland completely befuddled on how to make fire again or something like that. And yet, that's not really the way it works. You've got these temples and you've got these public buildings and you've got this intricate jewelry and stuff like that that are still present and available for the next generation that's lost the ability on how to reproduce these things, and subsequent generations as well. As you go further and further away post the decline, you start seeing these buildings starting to crumble and everything like that. So there is this visual reminder on a constant basis that your empire is in fact in decline because you cannot replicate these things anymore. And this becomes sort of a modern analogy as to where we are as we look at the development of things like modern architecture and our regulatory environment within places. Anyways, it's an interesting sort of, in my mind, thought-provoking exercise. I hope you guys enjoy it. As always, train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and train with purpose. Above all else, stay safe.